Now I want to introduce my guest. He's a former basketball player at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, former assistant boys basketball coach at St. Joseph's High School, former director of basketball operations for Mississippi State women's basketball, and the current director of Champions Academy. Joey Burton, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Brittany. It's a pleasure to be with you and to catch up after many years.
I know. I'm excited to have you. So let's get right to it.
Yep.
First, I want to ask you, how did you get introduced to basketball and then develop a love for the game?
It was just something I think was just a natural process. I have a story that I usually tell. My grandparents were going to visit my aunt, and they were visiting us in Phoenix, Arizona, and my aunt lived in New Mexico, and they were going to only take my two older brothers, and but I wanted to go. I had these two Chuck Taylors and a basketball, and I put them in the van, and I said, I got my basketball, I used to call it, and my shoes. I'm ready to go. And so I feel like I've always just had a basketball in my arms ever since could remember. But also my dad, he played a lot of pickup ball. He'd go on the weekends and go to different parks and play, and he just would have me tag along with him. And so as he was playing, I would be on the sideline, doing dribble moves or whatever. And if there was a free time to go on the court and take a few shots before the next game, I would do that. And so as I continued to just get older, I just fell in love with the game, and I'm thankful now that I continue to display that love through helping players achieve their potential.
Okay, so when you were in high school, were you heavily recruited or did you just say, okay, I want to go to a Christian school? Like, what led you to Moody?
Yeah, I actually wasn't highly recruited. I didn't even get recruited. I stopped playing my junior year. After my junior year, I didn't grow until I was a freshman in college. I was my junior year. I was about 5'10",
Hmm.
and I just was kind of frustrated with my height. And my brothers were well over 6 feet when they were in high school, and so I was planning on just going to college, and I was planning on working. So my senior year, I decided to work more so I could prepare for college financially, and I continued to play. I continued to find places to play, and then I moved to Chicago in the summer of '97, right after my graduation, to live with my grandmother. And I decided to stay out there because my grandfather came down with Alzheimer's disease, and so I wanted to be with my grandmother. I didn't want her to be alone. And I continued to just play. And Chicago was a total different brand of basketball than I knew growing up, and it was intriguing. And my freshman year, I grew 4 inches and gained about 25 pounds. And so now I'm 6'2.5", and I'm 190. And I was like, man, I think I could play now. I think I could play. I was playing against guys that were on the JUCO team that I attended, and I was holding my own. And so after just doing some research and trying to find an opportunity, I didn't really care the level. I just wanted to know that I could maybe walk into a school or walk on a team and have an opportunity to play. And Moody presented that opportunity. The coach didn't even recruit me. I reached out to him. I let him know my background, and I told him I was already enrolled in the school. And so he said, "Yeah, you could come out, try out, and we could go from there." And eventually, I was able to become a starter, and it was a great experience for me because I got to play the game I love. And I got to play a lot, and I think that is missed in today's recruitment process. A lot of players are trying to seek the highest level rather than trying to find the spot that fits for them, no matter what the level is. And it at Moody, really I always knew I wanted to coach, but it really opened my eyes to another level of basketball. We had NBA teams come in and practice. We had the NBA draft combine at our school. We had college teams come and practice. It's exactly how I got connected with Sharon Fanning at Mississippi State. Is they were practicing at our school, so it allowed me to have just a whole different understanding of high level basketball, and that started to pique my interest into that world of high level basketball, and that's where I started to pursue a coaching dream at a higher level than just high school.
Mm. Okay, and one thing I wanted to ask that question
Yeah,
of you attending a Bible school because I know you're a person who is strong in your faith.
yeah,
So I didn't know if that was a part of your decision then or if maybe that influenced you later on in life. Like, you
yeah.
know.
That's funny. It wasn't part of my decision to go. I was actually looking at other schools, and my mom just said, "Hey, if you really want to play basketball, I think you could go to this school and play." And my mom and dad attended there, and I was like, "Really? Like, you think I could like play?" Because I just was looking for any opportunity to play.
Mhm.
And so, unfortunately, I wasn't really, I wouldn't say I was as strong in my faith at the time. I was probably more, pursuing just basketball opportunity than pursuing the opportunity to, strengthen or develop my faith. And it was a move that I think God initiated for me to be able to play and be able to pursue my passion, but also to strengthen my faith. And ultimately, I met my wife there, and so God's hand was heavily involved in bringing me to that place. And even though I wasn't there per se for the Bible knowledge or the faith, but by the time I left there, it was both. It was for basketball and my faith, and like I said, I met my wife there as well.
Well, good deal. And you talked about y'all having like the combine there, a lot of opportunities just
Yeah.
being there. So talk to me about how you got the opportunity to become an assistant coach at St. Joseph's.
Yeah, I would play a lot of pickup there. We had a unique situation. It was, really a centrally located downtown Chicago. So a lot of pros would come through and play. College players would come through and play. And one of the guys that would always come through and play was a guy by the name of William Gates, and he was a part of that documentary, Hoop Dreams. And I wanted to get into coaching, and so I just talked to him about it. That was my favorite movie and still is my favorite basketball movie. So I just talked to him, and I was able to have the opportunity to reach out to the coach who was a coaching legend. I think he unfortunately he's passed, but before he ended his career, he became the winningest high school basketball coach in Illinois history. And so I was able to just reach out to him, and William Gates was able to, put my name in, and it just happened from there. So it flowed from there, and then my opportunity at Mississippi State came the following year.
Okay, so making that transition from coaching to basketball operations, did
Yeah,
you initially want to coach at the college level and saw the Dobo position as an opportunity,
yeah.
or did you want to make that jump? Like,
Yeah, I that was the ultimate goal. I mean, I was working basketball camps.
mhm.
A story that I share a lot when I'm on a podcast, and there's different viewers, so I'll share this again. And as I look back, I see just God's timing is perfect, and how He works in our lives to get us to where we need to go. And so I was working basketball camps. That's how I met Coach Fanning, or worked for Coach Fanning initially. They were doing a practice at our school, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, ran into her in the bathroom. And as you know, Coach Fanning's all like, "Oh, you should come to the game." So we went to the game. Coach Fanning asked my wife to lead the devotional the next Sunday morning. So the game was on Saturday. We weren't flying out till like Sunday afternoon. So we went and did the devotional. I had breakfast with Coach Fanning, and I asked her about how do you get into college basketball coaching. I had no contacts. I didn't know anything about the college game, and she said, "You need to work basketball camps." And I said, "Well, could I work yours?" And she said, "Yeah, we could work something out." So that was the summer of 2003 that I initially went to Mississippi State, and I worked her basketball camps. I interned there for about a month, a little over a month, and did the basketball camps. And so I knew now, okay, this is what I want to do. And then the following summer, I went out to UCLA, and I tried to get on at University of Arizona. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was a big University of Arizona basketball fan. and I worked the emails and reaching out to the Dobo at the time, and he told me like, yeah, you should be good. Reach out to me after the Final Four of 2004, and I said, okay, great, and I did, and he said, unfortunately, we have all of our staff back, so there's no room for you. And I kind of knew what that meant. Like, hey, I'm not gonna have any opportunity here. He said, I'll keep your name on file, but I figured like, this is not gonna happen. Well, uh, one of my friends was running track at UCLA, and his best friend was the head manager for UCLA men's basketball. And I told him what happened. He said he had to connect at UCLA. Long story short, through those connections, I was able to get an opportunity at UCLA. And because of being at Mississippi State, I knew what it took to be involved in camps, especially behind the scenes of preparing packets, getting balls aired up and organized, preparing just maybe different gyms for camp to happen. So I got out to UCLA probably like a week early, and I just started working with the guy. And he was like, "Hey, you're not going to get paid." I was like, "I don't care. I just want to work. I want to, get better. I want to just do whatever it takes to, show that I'm worthy to be here at camp." And it led to me having an opportunity of a lifetime later that summer because of my work ethic and my loyalty to him. I had the opportunity to go to John Wooden's house and sit with him and be able to sit and talk basketball, talk leadership, talk life. And at the time, and I still have a deep respect for him, but at the time, he was like my coaching idol. Like he was the coach I wanted to be like. I, read every book that he authored, anything that was written about him, was something I was reading. And I remember there was a gap between camps before I got asked to go to meet him. My mom sent me an email about Bill Walton and the story about he didn't want to cut his hair, and John Wooden was like, "Oh well, if you don't want to cut your hair, this is like the '70s, right? So the hippies are all out in Cali and all." And he's like, "If you don't want to cut your hair, you could leave the team." And my mom was like, wouldn't it be amazing if you met him? And I'm like, I'm not gonna meet him. Like this dude's a legend. It's not like he coming to the office or he coming around. And she's like, you never know what God could do. And literally, like within a week of her saying that, I got invited to go to his house, and I was in shock. I had to call her, and I was like, "Mom, like, you're not gonna believe what just happened." And so, just that got me into wanting to get into college basketball, but I just still didn't have any connections. And so, the coach at St. Joe's had a lot of connections with college coaches because he had such a successful program. He had legends like Isaiah Thomas, who played for the Pistons. He had numerous of players that went on to play in Big Ten schools. And then at the time, he had Evan Turner, who was the second pick from Ohio State. He had him on his team as well. And so I was hoping that would get me in, and it really didn't get me in because it was my previous relationship with Coach Fanning that allowed me the opportunity to take the job at Mississippi State. So after my first year there at St. Joe's, Coach Fanning contacted my wife, and I was engaged still then at the time, but then Coach Fanning and I talked, and she offered me the opportunity. And I talked to the coach who I deeply respected, and he said, if you want to get into college, you need to take it. And to be honest, I was trying to get into the men's side, but still just wanted to get the opportunity to coach and be around a high level program just to get my foot in the door. And that's why I took the opportunity at Mississippi State.
Okay, so let me connect the dots because that was a lot right there. You
I
talked
know, I
about
talked a lot on it.
okay, because I never knew you met John Wooden.
Yeah,
Like that's crazy. That's great.
yeah,
Okay, so you did 1 year at St. Joseph,
yeah,
and then at that time while you were there, you met Coach Fanning. You did the
yeah,
internship work for the camp that summer.
yeah,
Then from there, you had the opportunity. You went out to LA.
yeah.
Well, okay, so how long did you do what you did with
So,
UCLA?
so I worked for Coach Fanning in 2003 for the internship, and I was going out to UCLA every summer after that, just trying
Okay.
to build a resume of working camps. That's a way to get into college coaching, and I only chose to do that school because I wanted to build relationships with the coaches and just get some familiarity with them.
Hmm.
And it was funny, the coach I was working for out there was Ben Howland, who became the head
Mississippi
coach at
State.
Mississippi State, years after he was done at UCLA. But it was just a good time for me to just really try and develop consistency with the same school. Unfortunately, it didn't anything, no, nothing happened. But when Coach Fanning reached out to it was probably at what 3 years, no, 2003. So four years after I did her camp, that's when she reached out to me about the ops position. Yep.
So 2007.
Yep, 2007.
So you this whole time you were still at St. Joseph's coaching, but you were still during the summers. I'm volunteering at UCLA. I just want to be
Yep,
a part of it.
yep.
Okay.
So I spent my whole summers at UCLA. And it was like another opportunity to see high level players. Like they would have their summer runs out there. I mean, I'm in the gym watching, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. So I'm watching these guys work out and play, live pickup basketball too. So it just was all like intriguing to me that, man, like I'm out here in LA and I'm able to see these, all time greats, competing and working out. And so that was another reason why I like to go out there because it gave me the opportunity to be able to observe, the best of the best.
Right. So no, that's a good roadmap because it is hard to get to the collegiate level from high
Yeah,
school. So while you're coaching, and anybody listening, if they want to coach at the college level and maybe they're at the high school level, okay, during the summers, maybe you got to find a time because you have team camps and stuff in June.
yeah,
But let me go try to do something at a local college and,
yeah,
get in with the coach and network and meet players and other people that way while I'm still here. And then something will open up and it did for you. You got that opportunity at Mississippi State with Coach
yeah.
Fanning after doing the internship. So you had already been there, I want to say 3 years before I came, because I came in
Yes,
2010.
yeah,
And so that's where we connected because you were the Dobo when I came in. So my first 2 years, you were the Dobo.
yeah,
And
yeah,
during that time, you couldn't really say much, or because you had the NCAA
yeah,
compliance rules where the Dobo couldn't really coach, couldn't do anything at practice. So, and you had a lot of knowledge to give,
yeah,
but you just kind of. So, but I really want to commend you because you helped me out a lot. And I've told you this before, but I want
yeah,
to say it on the pod. You helped me with my mechanics and my shot
yes,
because it never clicked for me up until I worked with you.
yeah,
You just pulled me to the side. I don't know how it happened. And you were like, your shot, it could be really good, much better if you helped me with the perpendicular angle.
yeah,
And making sure you said the ball here, like a server, it shouldn't hit your hand. It should be a little space there.
yeah,
And just keep it here. And start close to the rim. Make sure that form and technique is right. And then work your way out. And I did just that and I got on that gun. So
yeah,
midway through my sophomore year, oh, oh my God. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
listen. It was
Oh, I
you
bet.
couldn't tell me nothing. So once I got my mechanics right, oh man. So and when I got in the game, when I did play, catch and shoot, making
Yeah.
shots, feeling good about it, going into my junior year at practice, like man. So that was really good. So you helped me out a lot, and I appreciate
No, no, I
you.
appreciate that. No, yeah, it's something I was always intrigued by with shooting. Maybe because I needed to be a really good shooter to get any opportunity to play, and so I always worked on my shooting. I always was trying to figure it out myself. There wasn't trainers, when I was playing, so I was reading books. I was, doing whatever I could to learn about shooting, and I would try some stuff and then when I was at school, we had a program that we'd work with kids from the Cabrini Green Project, and I would bring them over to our school because it was only a few blocks away, and I would just start working with them on shooting, just trying to see what worked and what didn't work, and it just was a way for me to connect with players, and I knew it was a valuable skill, right? Like everybody knows that if you're a shooter, you're gonna have at least a chance to play, right? Like
hmm
nobody be sitting on the bench like, man, that player could really shoot, but they don't get no chance. So, and then when I got to to the high school area, or a high school level, I was just same thing. I just said, hey, what are some players that I feel like if they just were able to make a marginal improvement on their shooting, that could make a big difference on their opportunity, right? And I just
hmm
always was looking for those type of players, and you were one of them, and it did. I often look back like, man, if the rules were like they are today, ooh,
hmm
I would have been on that floor all the time as much as possible, as much as the rules would have allowed to help players continue to get better. And it's funny because what I did with you is just now an extension of what I'm doing now. And so it's just been a big, it's become a passion of mine. And so I'm really thankful that I have the opportunity to do it.
No, it makes a huge difference because like I had a nice mid-range game, nice 15 footer, but
Yeah.
I needed consistency.
Yeah.
So it's like once you find it and you have a rhythm, and it's like
Yeah.
you see it go in and then it's mental at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I feel like everything is gonna go in. So when you see shooters like a Steph Curry, like you kind of
Mhm.
feel like I know the feeling of
Yeah.
like he feels like every shot is going in. Like, I mean, ain't many people who can shoot like him, but
Right. Right.
you get it. You get like, okay, I done worked on this. I got it. I know he got some crazy workouts and the stuff
Yeah.
he does to make shots, but you get it. And once you get it, like you just stick with it, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I got it now, and it just clicks. So sometimes you can work on something for so long because I tried different things in high
Yeah.
school, and that light bulb just came on for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So.
And it still amazes me. I've had players that have I've worked with them as they're preparing for the draft process, and they might have got drafted or might not, but they're going to have a really good draft process, and it still is shocking to me how many players come to me and when we work on their shot and they're making some of these adjustments, like, man, I wish I would have known this years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Several of them have told me if I would have had this my freshman year in college, I would have not even been in this position of, I'm hoping to get drafted. And even like if I were to had this in high school, I'd have been only in college for like 2 years, right? And so it just is amazing that there's still a lot of coaches that are coaching, and I'm not saying every coach needs to do it, but there's a lot of players going through programs that aren't really getting better, especially at shooting, and now it's become a premium, and and I always felt shooting you can measure, and you're getting better at shooting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ball handling, that's tougher, and you might not always have the ball in your hands, right? There's only
Mm-hmm.
a certain amount of players that could have the ball in their hand, and their usage rate is really high. So, are you really getting better if all you got to do is really or not? Do you know if your really handle is getting tighter if all you got to do in your role is like attack a closeout and get to a mid-range shot? Probably not, right? But if your shot's getting better because if you're knocking down that mid-range or having your three-point shots going in more, now it's really impacting the rest of your game because your confidence is high off of that. And that's why I think I focus so much on shooting, and I still do, because it's the skill that is so measurable. Like, if you're shooting well, and when you're doing it well and it starts to become automatic, I think it just impacts the rest of your game.
Oh yeah, for sure. But and shooting isn't just like threes because I
Right.
was never a three-point shooter.
Yeah.
But if you could make 8 out of 10 15-footers in your
Yeah.
range, pull up, one dribble pull up, then that's good and within your game. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like you said, that's something you can improve on and get better. Like
Yeah.
I don't have the range to shoot threes, but I can be efficient, you know, below
But
the three
I'll say
point line.
this, if I was able to be on that floor all the time, you would have had a burner from 3-point range too.
Hey, look, I received that. We never got to
Yeah.
that point. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I don't know. Like, that's something because 15 feet, 20 to 25 to get to that range, that's legs. That's the whole deal. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So,
Yeah.
I don't know. You gotta have some strength to get that range up there,
Yeah, no, I
So,
think you would have been able to do it all from the three all the way down into the mid range.
yeah, but no, I'm glad you said that because a lot of times kids may think, well, I'm not a shooter, but you can
Yeah.
improve your shot. Perfect
Yeah.
example, Aaron Gordon.
Yeah.
He worked with somebody because he had a little hitch in his shot, but
Yeah.
now it's smooth and
Yeah.
he was more efficient this season.
Yeah.
His shot looked really good. So
Yeah.
you can get better at your shot. You really
Yeah,
can.
you can. I mean, I've been blessed to be able to help players that were not in the NBA and get to the NBA, or maybe like on a two-way contract and get to a standardized contract, and they all improved only in one thing. It was their shooting. And so you can improve even though it's later in your career, like you're 20, 21 years old, but you just got to be committed to the process. You got to be committed to the work that it's going to take, and you got to be okay with some failure. You're not going to, it's just not going to click right away. You're going to have to almost be okay with it getting a little worse before it gets better. But if you stick with it, you're going to have the opportunity to really, reach your potential. And so, like these players that I've helped improve their shooting, they had the speed, they had the athleticism, but they just didn't have the consistency in shooting. And once they got it, that's when their potential was reached, and they were able to really make life-changing money.
Yeah. Well, while we're here, I want to ask this too because I do feel like it's mental where your shot can get worse. An example would be it's inconsistent. I'll say Westbrook. And
Hmm.
for him, I feel like it's more mental than anything.
Yeah,
I feel like his shot was at its best when he was with OKC.
yeah,
Mid-range game was deadly. So I'm trying to figure out what has happened as he's gotten older in the league, for his shot, for him to struggle so much when it
yeah.
was good. And now it's like, for me looking at him, it's more mental than anything.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely think there's a mental part of it. The other thing is the analytics, and it's so driven by analytics that the mid-range game is, I want to say it's frowned upon unless if you're one of the stars or it's down to the last 2 or 3 minutes, mid-range is fine. But with the lack of emphasis on it, we'll say it kind of probably got him out of rhythm, right? Just not being able to get to that mid range, or another thing that happened here in the last 3 years is the type of defense of schemes. So defense, when he was getting that mid range, they call it drop, where that in when you played, a lot of times that big would come out and hedge, right, and
Hmm.
like get out. Well, now popular scheme or coverage of pick and roll is just have the big drop, because analytics tell us, well, most players aren't going to hit that 16-foot shot 50% of the time. So we'll just let them basically have that, and maybe we could contest it, and hopefully they miss. Well, as bigs got more agile, what do they start doing? They start switching. So now you're taking away that like mid-range shot, and you're now able to guard just off of the switch. And I think that had an impact on Russell Westbrook's game, because he was getting to that mid range. He could get his rhythm in that mid range. And as a former player, once you see one or two go in, you're feeling it now,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
so now he couldn't get to that as much. And now he had to shoot threes that are probably a little more difficult, like coming right off the ball screen to shoot it. And then as that became as that became more inefficient, then what does it start to do? Messes with his mental. Then it's questioning it. And talking to several NBA players, sometimes what this will happen to players that can't shoot is where they don't even close out on you. Like that does something to your mind. Like
Mm.
you're wide open, everybody's watching you, it's wide open, and like a person that's supposed to rotate to you just like kind of weighs you off. Like, I ain't going out there, and then you miss it. What happens? Starts messing with your mind again. So I think part of it is the coverage, is the schemes change on how they guard pick and roll in the NBA. But also it's the mental side of it, and you got to have a lot of mental toughness and mental confidence to be able to be efficient over a long period of time, especially in the NBA.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the analytics and the schemes and the coverage, how things have changed over the years. And I hate that because when I came in at state, it was like you're gonna have to be able to knock down a three. And if that's not your game, it takes
Yeah,
time to develop
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And every day it's a mental thing because it's like if you're not there, you haven't practiced every day. It's no time like yeah, after practice, after individuals,
yeah,
weights. I have to work on this, but if it's not clicking and not happening fast enough, it can do something to your mental.
yeah,
And it's like you feel like you're not valuable because you can't shoot the three, or like you said, that mid-range shot, people treat it like it's not good enough. But to
yeah,
me, if you're a player that can do everything, get to the basket, finish at the rim, have a nice floater game, mid range, and can knock down a three, you can't be stopped. You're deadly.
Right.
So I look at a player like a Caitlin Clark, where she has all of them. She's
Yeah.
working on the mid range, getting better at the
Yeah.
mid range. Because for her, it's either a deep three, get to the basket. She needs to develop a floater more. But once she gets
Yeah.
that floater in that mid range game more consistent, she's
Mm.
gonna be hard to stop
Yeah.
offensively. So it's
Yeah.
like, why are we downplaying that mid-range game? You know what I mean? Like everything doesn't have to be a three. And you see that now in the NBA, everything.
Yeah.
It's like so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
threes. Like,
Well, I mean, like there's players I work with that I really wouldn't want them taking many mid ranges because they're not as efficient as like a Shea, Gilgeous Alexander is. And I think Steve Nash and LeBron were talking about this on their Mind Game podcast, where it's like the mid range isn't a bad shot, but also it's who's shooting it. So like a Caitlin Clark, her getting to her mid range is going to open up other stuff because now it's going to cause defenses to maybe, gravitate towards her. So if she's hitting that mid range, right, oh, we can't give that up. And now she's going to be able to use her passing ability, right? But, as you're looking at maybe, like a Aaliyah Boston, you want her shots coming at the rim, right? So if you are having a heavy diet of, Aaliyah Boston's 16, 17-foot shots, it's probably not an efficient enough shot. Now, Caitlin, yeah, possibly. I mean, like, I feel like Diana Taurasi would come off that ball screen as well, and she would be able to hit those mid-range shots. But if it's a free-for-all for everybody to say, hey, just get to an open shot, it's not always a good shot for everybody. Let's just say that. And and the numbers are true. And I think that's partly why the Suns struggled with the Kevin Durant and Booker and Bradley Beal is because those guys are really good at the mid range. But if you look at some of the numbers, it's if they're only making 8 threes because of predominantly their shots are mid range, and they're only taking 8 threes, but the other team, they only make 8 threes, and the other team's making 14 or 15 threes, that's 21 different points. That's a differential of 21 points. That's hard to make up. And so I'm not against the mid range. I could see why NBA teams want to emphasize it, but you ain't never heard a coach tell like Joel Embiid, like, stop shooting a mid range, or or the star, like Shea's a classic example of it. Chris Paul, there was one year that when he was with the Suns and went to the finals, he shot 50% from the elbows. That's like a layup, And so it's those type of players, you're not going to ever complain about it. But if it's a role player that's only shooting 41% from the mid range, 4 out of 10 basically, as a coach with the analytics being such a big part of it, you might question that shot.
I got you. I got you. And that was a good breakdown of
Yeah, yeah,
understanding how it works.
yeah. I'm not here to try and convince anybody. I'm just trying to maybe show why teams are valuing it or why it's going that way. Whether you agree with it or not, it's just that's the thought process with a lot of these NBA teams.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So after MSU, because you guys you left after my sophomore year,
Yeah,
um, did you try to get into another like a coaching job with a college team, or
yeah.
at that point did you say, okay, it's time for me to branch out on my own?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I tried and get into coaching, uh, just kind of know the business side of it. I remember our contracts ran through the end of July, so meaning we got paid through the end of July, and so I was still living in Starkville, and I was going for coaching jobs, but I still had this like heart to want to try and work with men, and that was my original goal when I was even a teenager wanting to coach. And so I wasn't opposed to women's, but I wasn't going to be an ops guy again.
Hmm.
I couldn't do it again, and so and not because not necessarily because it was a bad position, but it just wasn't my strength.
Hmm.
It taught me a lot, but my gift wasn't to be an administrative. My gift was actually to be on the floor, coaching and having a direct impact on the players. And so uh, I tried to get some. I remember I went up to North Alabama and I met with the coach at North Alabama at the time, and he rejected me. And I was trying to get with the coach at Tennessee State on the men's side, and he rejected me. And so I just kept on getting rejection after rejection. And I was open to women's opportunities, but none of them came either. And now I look back at it, and it was just all that rejection was really just directing me to where I needed to be. Even though I didn't understand it at the time, I was at a point where I was like, "Whoa, this coaching thing might not be for me. I might have to go get a real job now because, in my opinion, coaching's not a real job because it's something you get to do that you love and all. Even though it's a lot of work and there's a lot of stress to it, but I thought I was going to have to just be in Starkville. And I was just going to stay there and just start finding a local job and try and get back into it the following year. And one of the men's coaches at the time, Phil Cunningham, introduced me to an organization called Nation of Coaches, and they would have a Bible study on Sunday nights. And so I hopped on that. It was like not a Zoom call, but like just a conference call. Would jump on that. And, they asked for prayer requests and whatnot. And I just, told them what I was going through. And so later in September of 2012, I got a call from a guy that was a part of that call, and his name is Ed Schilling. He's currently the head coach at Pepperdine right now, but he was doing skill development in Indianapolis. He brought me up to Indy in the middle of September to work with him. He had some pros that he was working with before they headed to training camp. And he was coaching high school basketball as well at one of the most prestigious schools in Indianapolis. So I went up there for a week just to visit with him. He was well connected. I knew of him before I met him, and so I just wanted to be around basketball because, man, it was after we left Mississippi State. It was like I had no basketball. I wasn't around I wasn't around players. I wasn't around coaches. I didn't have even access to like the film that we had. So I was just like, man, this is tough. I'm not even able to be around the game. And when he offered an opportunity to spend a week with them, I jumped on it because I just wanted to be around the game.
Mhm.
And that week, he offered me an opportunity to move to Indianapolis and work with him. And just a little faith story there. All he could guarantee me was $1,500 a month. And I was like, this probably ain't gonna work. But I said, I'm gonna talk to my wife and I'm gonna pray about it and see what she says. And we both had this feeling that God was leading us to go for it and just live off of faith. And I'm so glad we did because it wasn't easy, but man, we were able to see God show up in a lot of crazy ways that were just nothing but Him. And it just strengthened our faith even more, and to just allow us to really continue to persevere through some hard times.
Hmm. Good deal. Hey, it worked out for you. You got to take that step.
Yeah,
Got to take
yeah.
that step. So, okay. So you were working with him. How long did it take for you to start? Okay, now I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, so I was working with him, and the goal still was to get in college basketball. So the 2012 2013 season, I was working with him, and the goal was to get into college basketball. And the guy that I actually replaced got a job with the Indiana Pacers as a video guy. And Ed had a great coaching pedigree. He worked for John Calipari at UMass when they went to the Final Four in I think '96 or '97. Then he went with him to the New Jersey Nets, and then he became a head Division I coach at Wright State in Dayton, Ohio. He was there for 5 years. And then he went back to Memphis with Calipari, and then he moved to Indianapolis. So he had just this really good pedigree of coaches and coaching at all levels. And so I was able to learn a lot from him. And then he also coached high school while running this basketball academy. And he was one of the first skill development guys that I could remember. I mean, he did Mike Conley and Greg Oden's pre-draft process, and that wasn't really that popular at the time. And so the 2012 and 13 season, I just was working with him. I was I volunteered with him for the varsity team, but he said, "Hey, I could get you an extra like $2,500 stipend if you coach the eighth grade team, and that's before the varsity practice, and then you could go run the workouts in the evening for the academy." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it. I'm out here trying to find any money, you know."
Hmm.
And ironically, that eighth grade year, I had a player on my team by the name of Jaron Jackson Jr. And so I coached Jaron Jackson Jr. and then I stayed coaching there for 3 years at that high school. But after 2000, the 2012-13 season, Ed got an opportunity at UCLA, and he became an assistant at UCLA. And so he said, "Hey, you could take over what I'm doing." And my whole goal though was that off season to try and get back into college basketball coaching. And once he left, um, I just kind of got a feeling that I wasn't going to have the opportunity that I would have if he stayed. And plus, he was doing pre-drafts with players, and that was a hard time of my life because once again, like the spring before the off season before, Coach Fanning retired, so I'm left out without a job. I moved to work for this guy, thinking that I'm gonna be with him maybe a year, two, and then he abruptly leaves, and then I just start to see my dream of coaching college, like going away. I was like, man, there's nobody's gonna want to hire a guy that just works as an eighth grade coach and a volunteer varsity assistant and is working with little kids, but it was a tough time to accept, but it was also another opportunity for me to really persevere and build character, but also starting to develop my own skill development philosophy. And so, in the understanding the business. So, I just pressed forward and I did what was there. But what happened was a lot of the players that were coming weren't coming to the academy. They were coming because of the coach, Ed Schilling. He's super well connected, was really good at what he did. So when they're like, "Who's this guy?" basically, they didn't continue. And so we lost a lot of clientele, and to a point where I was showing up for workouts and there was nobody signing up, there was nobody attending. And at that point, I had to make a decision. Like, I can't keep coming and doing workouts and not having anybody show up. So I'd rather try and start developing at least a one-on-one clientele where I could do individual workouts. And at the time, Twitter, Vine, back in the day, Instagram, they were doing these like 15-second videos. And saw a lot of trainers doing a lot of dribbling moves. And I was just like, because of my coaching background, I'm like, that's not bad, but I still think shooting is going to be more valuable as we move forward. And so I just started working with players on shooting and developing more of a clientele that way. But even at that time, I was, for a good year and a half, I wasn't really working with any high level players, or I was just continuing to work with any player that would want to work with me, but it was usually just like junior high kids. And so it was a opportunity for me that at the time I didn't know to really develop my philosophy, and I think it set the foundation for what I'm doing now.
Okay, so is Champions Academy the same academy you were working with back then, or is it something
Yeah,
different?
it's the same organization.
Same organization.
It was never a building. It was just you rent. It was an organization, nonprofit, and you go do workouts at different gyms. But so it was never an actual location. It was an organization, and we would use different gyms throughout Indianapolis.
Okay, so you mentioned Evan Turner, who
Yeah,
played at St. Joe's in Chicago, where you coached. And I remember some of the first players you started to work with were Yogi Ferrell at
yeah,
Indiana. He was at
yeah,
Indiana University, and
yeah,
then Evan Turner, he was at Ohio State.
yeah,
So, how did that happen? How did that connection come back?
yeah. So Evan Turner, I was working with him in high school. He goes to Ohio State, and then he gets drafted after his sophomore year, number two pick. And I didn't work with him because by the time I got out of coaching at Mississippi State, he was already in the NBA and he was with the
Okay.
Philadelphia 76ers. Um, was interesting in 2014. He got traded to Indiana, And so I was like, oh, this is my opportunity. We could reconnect. And we did reconnect, but we didn't get in the gym. It was after the trade deadline. And so, but I would go to the games and, he would give me tickets and all. And we had a good relationship. But so I didn't get a chance to work with them at that moment. And then after his 25, 26 games with the Pacers, he was a free agent and then he went and signed in Boston. So I didn't ever get back working with him at that point. I did eventually. And then Yogi Ferrell, with the high school, he went to the high school that I was coaching at, but I didn't coach him.
Mm.
And there was a player, I would say it was one of my breaking points in my career that was on the team, and he was just a physical beast, 6'3", 190. Just he could have. His dad played in the NFL. He could have been like a free safety or a cornerback. He was just built so well, but he could do everything: defend, he could pass, but he couldn't shoot. And he went through his AAU season, and a lot of his friends were starting. This after his sophomore year, a lot of his friends were starting to get offers, and he was getting nothing. And he finally hit me up and was like, because I was talking to him about his shot, but he wasn't really wanting to listen. And so he finally hit me up and was like, "Hey, uh, would you be willing to, work with me? I'm ready to work now." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And we really worked hard, and he's still one of the hardest workers I've worked with. And we went to work on his shooting, and we changed his mechanics. And his sophomore year, he only shot three threes because he was told not to shoot. His junior year, he had multiple games of three or more threes made. And the state championship game, he played well, and Yogi Ferrell was at the game, and Yogi Ferrell asked one of the other former players, was like, "Hey, who does he work with?" Like, I remember him as a freshman, and he couldn't shoot, and he just wasn't. He wasn't as good as he is now, and they said he's working with Joey, and I got connected with them after that, and so he was a big break for me at the higher level because he was just such a well-known name. Indiana basketball would be equivalent to being like Alabama football,
Mm.
and so everybody is a Indiana fan for the most part. You got Purdue and Notre Dame, but Indiana is the state university for basketball. And it was a huge opportunity to work with him. And I mean, it was funny because before I started working with them, I had players like, "Oh, I'm going to go to this other trainer. I'm going to do this other thing. Like, you're too focused on shooting. I want to get my whole game right." And I was fine with that. It's like, okay, well, I'm not for everybody. And then one summer night, Yogi and I were working late. It was, I mean, like 10:30, 11. We got done, and I get home, and I hadn't tweeted in a long time. And all of a sudden, my phone is just blowing up with these Twitter notifications. And I was like, "Man, what's going on?" I look at my notifications, and Yogi said, "I'm going to start calling Joey Burton the shot doctor." And after that, it was I had people coming back that left me to, "Hey, I want to get back in the gym," and it was a big blessing for me to have him like stamp me basically as a shooting coach, or a trainer that focuses on shooting. And that was a huge development for me.
Yeah, that was a blessing. So
It was.
how is Yogi doing now? Is he still playing overseas?
Yeah, he's still playing overseas. He's playing the TBT as well. So
Okay.
he plays overseas, and then he gets back here in the States, and then he played last year in the TBT, and he's gonna play again this year. And so yeah, he's just a unique player. I hate it for him because he had the competitive character, he had the skills, but the NBA is just kind of going away from those smaller guards. They
Mhm.
want those 6'6", 6'7" guys, and so that just it became tough to overcome when you don't fit the profile sometimes. And so, but he's still the one of the best leaders I've worked with, and just has an ability to impose his will on the game and on his teammates.
Hmm. Okay. I know you've worked with college players, NBA players, and I know you just got back from Slovenia. You were in
Yeah,
Italy.
yeah.
Uh, working with players getting ready for the NBA draft.
Mhm.
So, how did you get to the point where now you're traveling overseas to go train with players? Is it just basically word of mouth?
Yeah, it's word of mouth, and I humbly say it's production too. So one of my former clients, he's not playing basketball anymore, but his agent became a good friend of mine, and he saw the results that I had with his client at the time, and I mentioned Evan Turner. Uh, Evan and him were really good friends since the eighth grade. They were like best friends. And so I didn't know that when I was even in India, I didn't know that until maybe 3 years later when I met him. And he actually later got me with Evan. So I spent some time once Evan got signed with the Portland Trailblazers. I spent a season working with Evan, and it was a great experience, great opportunity there. And so a lot of times in our training circle, it's word of mouth, players telling each other, but also agents dealing with the players and wanting to help the players and provide resources for them. And so this agent I'm really good friends with, he represents numerous NBA players, and he works for an agency in LA, and they got a division in Europe. And the players I worked with there just needed to work with shooting and needed to work with their overall skill. And so they were getting ready for there's an NBA draft combine in Europe because the Europe season a lot of teams don't get done playing. If they make it deep into their leagues, they don't get done playing until like the first week of June. And so they can't go to the NBA draft combine in Chicago because they're still in some of them are still in the regular season and the playoffs haven't even started. So what the NBA did was say, hey, we're going to have a combine in Europe like the first week of June, and that will probably allow most of the players in Europe that declared for the NBA draft, they'll be done with their season, and then we could do the same drills, same things that they do in Chicago, but they do it in Treviso, Italy. So, yeah, a lot of it is word of mouth, but also just building relationships, and the relationships I built with agents, I think it's been because they've seen production, especially in shooting. And I keep going back to that. I know it's maybe the theme of the conversation, but really, there's more players that weren't able to stay in the NBA because of the lack of shooting than any other skill. And so a lot of agents know that that's important and that's what a player needs to do. And so thankfully, I've had some production and some success with it. And, they'll reach out to me if they feel like I could help their client.
Okay, gotcha. So you now have the Joey Burton basketball app, which is I saw you have it. It's a
Yeah.
personalized AI
Yeah.
shot development app.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you've implemented artificial intelligence
Yeah.
with, shooting technique. So can you talk about why you wanted to create an app and
Yeah.
explain some of its features?
Yeah, I created an app simply because I wanted to help more players. I can't be everywhere at once. My schedule is, travel dominant, so I travel a lot. I travel to the players mostly, so it's tough to be everywhere, at once. Or I'm not just centrally located. It's like, hey, everybody come to Atlanta, where I'm at now. And so I just wanted an opportunity to be able to help more players, and that's what it's really been about. Is just how can I continue to expand my influence and help more players because we talked about it earlier. I mean, I really think if I had the opportunity to work with you when you first got to Mississippi State, it could have changed a lot of things, and it could have helped you even more than it already did. And but some players don't get the opportunity to be helped in that manner. And it's not that they're not good enough, they just didn't have the proper help, to be honest. I know it sounds simple, but I wanted to be able to provide a platform and an opportunity to help players get better. And I developed an app. I have also like a one-on-one consulting option they could do where I meet with them over Zoom, and I have software where I could analyze their shot. I could analyze their body mechanics and just always trying to help them get better, especially at shooting.
Yeah. No, that's smart, especially with where we're going with technology now.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you can't be everywhere at once. So
Yep.
they can have a shooting doctor
Yeah.
right at their fingertips, right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate a little bit.
Okay.
I want to ask, do mechanics really matter? And I ask this because you look at players like a Rick Barry, who played years ago, had the underhanded free
Yeah.
throw shot. You look at Sean Marion, who had a weird shot but would be
Yeah.
able to make shots.
Yeah.
Leonardo Barbosa.
Yeah.
Even now, Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
It's unorthodox, but he makes shots.
Yeah.
And I saw a clip. It was of Lethal Shooter and Cat Williams. They had a three-point shootout. Now, Lethal Shooter, he was talking about how far back he was pulling from, but he wasn't making his. If he did, he probably made 1 out of 3. Where
Yeah.
Cat Williams was right at the three-point line. He understood
Yeah.
his range, and he had the little ugly form, ugly shot, but he made all 3. Then came,
Yeah.
made 2 free throws, and then beat Lethal Shooter in a foot race.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you, is it mechanics or do what's best for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get asked a lot. I like to say there's an exception to every rule, right? Uh, you could hit the lottery and become rich, or you could take these business or investing principles and invest your money a certain way and get rich too. And so there's an exception to every rule. And so I like to say, well, for every player that we talk about, like with mechanics, and you mentioned some, even KD doesn't have these like, really smooth orthodox. He has some unorthodox mechanics, but I'll come back with the question: if you tried and teach 100 players to shoot like KD, or you tried and teach 100 players, in one group, and then you did a study, and then you teach 100 players to shoot like Klay Thompson, who would you think have the opportunity? The group of 100 with Klay, 100 with KD. Out of those group, who would have the more players coming out shooting probably with more efficiency?
Clay, shooting
Klay,
like Clay.
right?
But KD,
Exactly.
that shot nice now. That
Oh, no, no,
shot,
it's nice. And I mean, I've had the pleasure to watch him warm up. I sat courtside and watched him warm up. And I mean, he has this little swing, but man, when he gets it back to here and it looks really good. But like you look at, and this is part of my philosophy, like you look at players like Steph Curry, and all the greatest shooter ever. Like he doesn't swing the ball across his face. It's on his right side. Klay Thompson, it's on his right side. Steve Nash was an elite shooter. And if Steve Nash was playing in this era, with the amount of threes they were going up, he would have done some crazy numbers with threes. He shot on the right side of his body. Dirk Nowitzki shot on the right side of his body. You look at some of these elite players, and they're all shooting not exactly the same way, but there's these principles that are the same. And so if I took 100 players and let them shoot like Sean Marion, maybe one, two, even if let's say 10 players became really good shooters, that's not a good percentage. And so obviously at a certain point, if it's working for them, you're not going to try and fix it. And that's not what I look to do. I don't look to say, okay, you have to shoot this way. And if you're not shooting this way, it's not going to be efficient. My job is to make you the most consistent shooter possible. And so there's a lot that goes into that. I could look at a player. Is there a consistent pattern of how they miss? They're missing short a lot. Is it because they're not getting enough arc? If they're missing to the right, is it because of certain mechanics that are causing a miss to the right? I just was in the gym with a player last night who is a center, and he's from one of the players I worked with in Europe, and he was down here working out with the Hawks today actually, and he was missing to the right. Well, as he started to shoot the ball, you could see his thumb, and he has huge hands. You could see his thumb going to the right as he was starting to release the ball. And he kept missing right. Well, then I noticed that, and we were able to get him to not use his thumb at all. And guess what started to happen? Consistently straight. So I do believe that there are some mechanics that do play a part. But like with the Tyrese, I've had the pleasure. One of my clients is his best friend, so I've had the pleasure to spend a lot of time around him. And one thing that makes him so great is his just confidence. And so, nothing's going to replace confidence. If you're really confident and it's working and it's not ideal, you're still going to be able to be a really good shooter. But, if it's not working or the percentages aren't there, then it's like, well, it's going to be tough. You might need to make some changes. And I know it's not the most popular sport, but it's like you don't see golfers have like 30 different swings, right? I mean, they all have a general same swing. It's not like one golfer like brings the ball up through the middle of his face first and then swings at the ball, right? They all usually go back and then there's a movement, forward and through the ball. And it's like basketball is like the sport that's like, oh, well, quarterbacks, they all have slightly different motions, but it's not like one's throwing it across their face, right? They're bringing it back. And so I feel like pitchers are the same way. They have some subtle differences, but there's not these like total opposite type of shots. And you get that in basketball, and some people believe that it doesn't make much of a difference. And I beg to differ. I think it can make a difference, and it doesn't need to be a lot, right? Like guys that have improved their percentages by only 2 to 3%, and after over a course of like 100 threes, it's only two or three more makes per 100 threes, have earned millions of more dollars just simply because of that.
Hmm. Okay. So I want to come back to where you were talking about the Euro League that they have, the combine for in
Yeah,
Europe. Yeah, the NBA combine in Europe because the players are just now wrapping up their season
yep,
and they can't make it to the combine in the States.
yeah,
So the NBA accommodates them. Do you think the WNBA, and I know a lot has to happen, will ever get to the point where they can push the season back to start later? Instead of starting in, they start having training camp and
and
preseason in April, and the season
yep,
starts in May. So the players coming out of college, they don't get, you know, they don't really get much time to train and prepare for the league the same way the guys do. The women don't. So
yeah,
the guys, they have, combine, they have summer league
yeah,
before they even start playing later on in the year. The women have to get right to it. So do you think the WNBA will ever get to the point where they're able to push the season back? And we know that would mean you have fewer players going overseas, because if
yeah,
you push the season back, that interferes with overseas and
yeah,
then them making it back. But that means they have to make the money to be able to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So I'm just saying, because there that is a disadvantage to me, and I see
mhm,
where players struggle
yeah,
early on the women's side, whereas the guys can come in and they can really have more of an impact because they have time to rest
yep,
as well as develop their bodies and get ready for the
yeah.
pros.
Yeah, no. I think it can. I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA season eventually starts getting pushed back. They really have a tough time fighting football. And I was with one of my clients, and there was a players association meeting, and that's why they started and I was listening in on it, and that's why they started the in-season tournament, because they needed to try and find a way to really boost the audience and the viewership early in the season, because not a lot of people were paying attention to it because they're so locked in on football, and football's only like Thursday nights, and then they got Monday night, they got all day Sunday. And so uh, I think the NBA probably, to also maybe space out games, they probably would be benefited if they push the season back a little bit and let it go run into a little bit later, into like beginning of July, and maybe have summer league like at the beginning of August or something, or middle of August. So I think it's predicated a lot, going to be predicated a lot on the NBA. But I could definitely see there's a realistic view, or realistic thought process of the NBA getting pushed back, which could make the WNBA able to push their season back. And then also the you said, like, would they be able to ever have like a combine or prepare for that stuff? I think it's going to move here pretty soon, where with the viewership and with where the NBA is on a rise. I think they're going to have opportunity to make more money. And I think they just signed a new deal with ION network, right? So
Hmm.
like, I think they're really going to be able to have more opportunities and more flexibility with how they do it. But they just have to be a little more patient, or they're going to have to be patient as the money gets up. And I think it's unfair because like many times the public will compare the NBA to the WNBA.
Hmm.
NBA's been, and now is 75 years old now. The WNBA is not even
It's
like
not even
20.
30 years. It's
Yeah,
not
it's not
30
even
years
30
old.
years, right? And the thing is it's like um I was when I was living in India, I got to know a former athletic trainer for the Pacers, and he was when they were in the ABA, and he was saying that in the 80s they were literally like playing at night, getting up in the morning, flying commercial to the next city, and then playing later that day. And this is in the 80s and maybe mid 80s, he said. So they started flying charters like later in the, in the probably in the early 90s, right? But it's like still at that point in time, it was still probably like 40 years old of a league in order just to get to a private planes. And so I think we are so quick to compare both, where I just think the WNBA needs more time and they're starting to develop a lot more following. Obviously, some of the, and the thing I think more than ever is following the NBA, WNBA is some of the rivalries that they've had in college have been really good and they just kind of flow right into the WNBA. And I mean, when like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, obviously that's a rivalry. But when they played against each other at LSU and Iowa played each other, I think it was good eventually for the WNBA. And seeing those rivalries happen in college. I think it's been really good for the WNBA, and I like how they kind of embraced it and continued it on throughout, them going from college to the WNBA.
Hmm. I got you. Okay. I like I like how it was in college. It was a big thing, LSU and Iowa,
Yeah,
and it has helped in the W, but I feel like it's being forced a little bit too much.
yeah, no,
You
I
know what I'm
agree with that.
saying?
Yeah,
Like how
but
many
but
times?
to get the initial like the
Yeah.
initial interest, I think that's been now. It's like okay,
Yeah.
but like look at what Larry Bird and Magic Johnson they played in a championship game, and then it is really what helped elevate the NBA. The NBA wasn't like doing any crazy numbers back in the 70s and even the early 80s, but the rivalry between Magic and Bird carried through the 80s, which helped them gain a lot of popularity, and I think that helps. But you're right, I agree. I think it's getting too forced now.
Yeah, it's forced, and plus they play two different positions. At least both
Yeah,
Larry and Magic, they were guards. Like Bird's like a three, you could play the four, be a
yeah,
guard.
yeah,
But it's yeah, and then I can't remember. Now the Lakers they was legit right away.
yeah.
They were struggling a little bit, but they were legit the first
Yeah, no,
years,
I mean, Magic won the championship his
y-
rookie year.
yeah,
So yeah, they were legit.
and then so the Celtics they were contenders. So it's like the Sky, they're struggling. You have to have
Yeah,
two good teams too. It's
yeah,
like get a team some time to get better. Like the Fever last year, they were struggling and then they got better towards the end of the season. Now
yeah,
this year, a lot is expected of them because of the
yeah,
players they brought in. Caitlin has been injured. Now she's back and had a great game against the Liberty yesterday.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so if
But
anything,
what
I
do you
guess
think? What do you think? Like, I can't pronounce her last name. Ina Saiga,
UNESCO.
Nisku,
Sabrina
Sabrina,
Ionescu.
Sabrina. Why aren't they focusing on like that type of matchup between her and Caitlin?
That's what I was just about to say because both of them, that was a great game, a rivalry
Yeah,
there. They're the same type of player, both can
yeah,
shoot.
yeah,
That's something more Liberty, Fever, contenders.
yeah.
That's something that they can push. I'm with you. I feel
Yeah,
like they should.
I do have some problems with the way the WNBA is not capitalizing as much on these
Yeah,
opportunities,
yeah.
and they've lost the focus of let's do what's best for the WNBA to maybe, like, hey, let's do what is getting talked about on social media. But those aren't real. I don't feel like those are real fans either. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
that's just clickbait stuff. But like you get two players that are playing the same position, man, that's and like there was a great game yesterday. I mean, Kalen came out like first game back. I'm about to show out. Like that's what's going to drive the numbers. I was in workouts all day yesterday, and that's the first thing I saw on my phone was that matchup in that game. And I just don't know why they don't promote that more. But maybe they're just trying to figure it all out. But I think they could find some more rivalries that are not equally matched necessarily with the team, but position by position, or
Mm-hmm.
at least have the ability to guard each other. Like Angel's never going to guard Caitlin, Caitlin's never
Mm-hmm.
going to guard Angel, so at least you have some position, opportunities to be able to really develop it.
Yes, I'm with you 100%. They need to
Yeah,
find some other angles because the same they beating it like a dead horse, baby. They
yeah,
beat.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it's really turning people off now,
Yes.
and it needs to, and there needs to be an appreciation for, there needs to be appreciation for, the individual skill that each one brings. Like obviously Angel's not going to be a player that's going to score 30 or, have these big, 3-point shooting games, but, you got to respect she plays hard. She has, I think she's figuring herself out too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like she had a triple double yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't from what I saw, she wasn't forcing stuff. And she was, or maybe it was today she had the triple double,
No,
but
she had the triple double yesterday.
yesterday, right? But she wasn't forcing things. Like I think she's finding herself a little bit more as a player as well. And so, like, it's like, hey, let's respect the player for what they bring to the game. It doesn't have to be let's compare stats and see who's better.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah,
So I kind of want to talk about what's next for you. I know when we ran into each other in the airport
yeah,
randomly in Atlanta, you were saying how, you want to kind of travel less and have a little
yeah,
bit more stability. And you talked
yeah,
about that coaching job, that college
yeah,
coaching job in this interview, and you talked about it then. So,
yeah.
what does that look like for you, and how are you trying to make that happen?
Yeah, yeah. I'm open to any opportunities. I had just while I was in Europe, I had a head coach of an NBA team reach out to me and wants to meet with me and discuss some things. I'm not sure what that looks like, and so we'll see when that happens, and if it's the right opportunity, I definitely would highly consider it. But I'm not. Once I'm out there like hustling to try and get a job like I would have been when I was in my 20s, right? Or maybe even
Hmm.
30s, because I love what I do. And I'm able to really experience some, tremendous, experiences and opportunities. But if the right opportunity came about, I definitely would consider moving it. My kids are getting older, so I would like to have a little more travel stability in regards to not having to be gone so much. And then my son, he's really starting to fall in love with basketball, and it'd be nice to be able to just have him be around more. This last spring, he started coming down to the Hawks facility when I work with some of the guys and rebound. And, he spent one day with me, just a whole day in workouts, and he was rebounding and helping. And it was just a great bonding experience. And, just being able to have a little bit more opportunities to do that with him more consistently would be really cool. So, nothing permanent yet, but at the right time, God's going to present the right opportunity, and if it comes, I definitely would jump on it.
Good deal, man. I know you want to spend more time with the fam. And since the kids are getting older and
Yeah,
everything. One last thing I want to say
yeah,
that stuck out to me, that has stuck with me since state. It probably was the SEC tournament or something like that. I can't remember if it was my freshman year or my sophomore year. And you talked about the pain of discipline versus
yeah,
the pain of regret.
yeah,
And the way you broke that down, I still think about that to this day. You were
mhm,
talking about basketball, like getting in the
yeah,
gym, doing what we needed to do
yeah,
long before the tournament came. You were like, everybody's tired at this point.
yeah,
Everybody has injuries, but
yep,
you have to be disciplined. You have to do what matters. You should have been doing it long ago to be prepared for
mm,
this point. And I mean, even in life now, no matter what you do, it's gonna come down to have you been disciplined? If you haven't been disciplined, you're gonna have some regrets. So go ahead
Yeah.
and go through. It's gonna be pain regardless. So you
Yes.
might as
Yes.
well deal with the pain of discipline to have the life you want, to have the
Yeah.
rewards you want, to achieve your goals, instead of looking back and having those regrets, like I should have done this, I could have
Yeah.
done this. So I just wanted to say that has stuck with me. I appreciate you. Like
Yeah.
I always was, soaking up the game that coaches would,
Yeah.
give and things
Yeah.
that y'all were saying. So
Yeah, no, no, you're a bright spot on the team, and I'm thankful that I was able to have the opportunity to coach you. And that last year, I was able to get promoted to assistant for the last part of the season, and that was my best time at Mississippi State because I was able to actually get on the floor and help players like yourself. But I mean, yeah, the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. It doesn't mean that what you discipline yourself for is going to always happen. I had this big goal of wanting to coach college basketball, maybe be a head coach, and that hasn't happened. But I don't have regrets that it hasn't happened, and because I could honestly say that I put in the work, I've put in I put in the time. The opportunity hasn't come, and we can't always control if the opportunity comes, but we can control our preparation, our discipline, our hard work. You got to choose a hard, either the hard of regretting it or the hard of the discipline. So it doesn't mean you're always going to get what you want, but it's a lot easier to know that you gave it your all and it just didn't work out. It just the opportunity didn't come or whatnot. And I've had players in the NBA. They've worked hard, they've done everything, and they just didn't get an opportunity in the rotation and they couldn't control it. They can't, go to the coach and say, you better play me now. They just have to control their day to day. And it didn't work out for them, but they don't have regrets and they don't feel that they're being, mistreated or anything either. They just put their head down and controlled what they could control.
good deal, man. And the UA, you're an example of that. You've been disciplined and doors have opened up for you.
Yeah.
And I know they're going to continue to open up for you.
No,
So I
I
wish you the
appreciate that,
best with
Brittany.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's great catching up. I really love what you're doing with the podcast, and I'm excited to see how it grows for you, but also grows the game that you love so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it and I receive it. Is there anything else you would like to add or let people know how they can find you on socials if somebody wants
Yeah,
to?
uh, I'm on Twitter, just Joey Burton, JoeyBurton, and then Instagram, Coach Joey Burton. Try and post insights about the game, insights about teaching, coaching, drills. I probably haven't been as active as I need to be on Instagram, but you can follow me, and I just hope I could help players and coaches through what I post to just help them become better players, coaches, leaders, whatever it may be.
All right, good deal. I
All right.
appreciate you. All
Yeah.
right. This has been another episode of Sports Minded. I'm your host, Brittany Young. Until next time, we out of here. Y'all be blessed.